of the existence of foreign deities in Egypt goes back to the period before the New Kingdom, but expanded later due to the expansion of the foreign relations during wars and peace times with other cultures. The main reason of the existence of these deities is because of the foreigners who stayed in Egypt and brought along their religious culture. Egypt, during that time, knew many foreign deities from the east and the northeast and the west, in addition to Nubian gods from the south, and they've all appeared in the Egyptian sources of scenes and reliefs. The first result of the culture exchange between Egypt and the ancient neighboring contemporary cultures in the area was the appearance of some cults of the ones coming from the Furat River zone and ancient Syria. Among these gods is Baal or Baal. The word Baal means the Lord and refers to a god or a master of the city. His real name is Baal Safon, or the master of the northern mountain. For originally, the god was a god of the mountain, and later he was connected with the travelers, so he became the god of travel and trips, maybe because of the existence of the mountain right by the sea. Baal Safon became the protector god of all ships and sailors, and that's why his cult existed in the delta. He was sanctified as a god of nature in Egypt and had two wives, goddess Ainat and goddess Ashtrit. The oldest proofs of his cult in Memphis goes back to the reign of King Amunhotep II, but his advent to Egypt happened during the second intermediate period and the Hyksos rule. That's when there was an attempt to bring him closer to the Egyptian god Set. God Baal had a temple and a complete set of servicing priests in Memphis during the New Kingdom. Goddess Ainat is an Asian goddess who appeared in Egypt in the Middle Kingdom and had a special fame and place during the New Kingdom. A special place was dedicated for her cult, attached to the temple of God Ptah in Memphis. She was mentioned in the papyrus of Chester Beatty with goddess Ashtrit as being daughters of god Ra. King Ramesses II had also claimed that he is the son of Ainat. She was represented in the animal form of the cow or in the human form with horns. Her name meant the Virgin. She was cared about by the kings and the commoners as her name came on several individual offering stelae. She was a goddess of war during the New Kingdom, but after a while she changed her savage nature, for we see her in the temple of Isis in Philae, reincarnating her character together with god Hor. Emperor Augustus presented her with two mirrors. Amongst her titles in the New Kingdom is the king's shield in his war, and it seemed that King Ramesses II was an enthusiastic worshipper of goddess Ainat. In addition, he called his horse Ainat and also his favorite daughter Benet Ainat, which means in Semitic language the daughter of Ainat. He had allowed and entered her cult to his new capital in the east of the delta called Perra Messo, where he had built a temple for her. In addition to the special status she enjoyed in Memphis and her own temple there, goddess Ainat also bore the title of the Lady of the Sky and the Lady of the Deities, just like the rest of the Egyptian goddesses, although in the reliefs she kept her foreign looks. Tigris and the south of Sudan, and their appearance was connected to their environment. In addition to the grand Egyptian gods that were worshipped in Nubia and Sudan, the first of which is Amun-Ra. According to the close connection between Egypt and its natural extension towards the south, and the importance the south represented for Egypt, the cult of several of the gods of this area was transported to Egypt itself, preceded of course by the gods of Nubia, which is certainly considered a non-separable part of Egypt and its civilization, but had some characteristics that gave it a distinctive and unique local style. There are groups of deities. The first group is composed of 5 gods, and they are Dedun, and Merwer or Mendulis, and Eri Hemisnefer or Idin-Zenophis, and Sibio-Meker, and Abid-Mak. The other group is 3 goddesses, and they are Webset, Ankhet, and Meket. These groups show the strong connection of culture, creed, and thought between Egypt and Nubia, in addition to the historical and geographical connection between them. God Abid-Mak is a god of Nubian origin or Egyptian origin, and in his figure he is equal to the Egyptian god Ma-Hesi, and his name means the one who protects. Usually he is pictured in a human form and a lion's head, and he wears above his head a hair cover, and above it a hem crown, and he wears a short kilt with straps, and fixes a bull's tail behind him with a belt. He wears bracelets on his wrists and ankles. With his left hand he holds a sail or a stick, that's his symbol, and also a bouquet of flowers. In his right hand he holds the Ankh symbol, or the symbol of life. God Hemisnefer is a Nubian god, and his name means the good companion. Usually he is pictured in a full human form, and puts above his hair a wig, above which there is a band that's tied in the back, and above it the crown of feathers. His forehead is decorated with a cobra, and sometimes he wears a crown with bending ram's horns. Above that there are 2 feathers, in which the sun disk is placed. On both sides of the feathers there are 2 serpents, and on top of each of them there is a sun disk. He wears a false beard that bends forward. The god wears a dress with straps and bracelets on the arms and the wrists, and a short kilt. He fixes a bull's tail on the back and holds on one hand the scepter was and the Ankh symbol. There were many theories about knowing the origin of god Eri Hemisnefer or Idin-Zenophis. Some thought he is a Nubian god, and others thought he is of Egyptian origin, and the third party found it difficult to determine his origin. He was known as a warrior god, or a god of wars and hunting, and a companion, and a protector of the temple, and a god who offers life and stability and power. Accordingly, he held many titles, some of which tie him to his southern home place or to the north. He was connected to the south with titles like the one ahead of Nubia, the one coming from Nubia, the Lion of the South, the one ahead of Philae, the one coming from the foreign southern cities, the one ahead of the southern Nome, or the one who resides in Abaton, the Lord of Abaton, the Lord of Philae, the Good Magi, the Lord of Punt, and the Dark Man. As for the north, he was known as the Lion of the North, the Lord of Mandis. God Didun is a god of Nubian origin. He is usually pictured in the full human form, wearing a simple head cover, and wears a false beard that's bent forward. He wears a short kilt, and in many times he puts a bull's tail that's fixed in the back. Usually he catches in one of his hands the scepter was and the symbol of life Ankh. Opinions differed about his origin. Some thought he's a Nubian, and others referred to him as just a god from the south. Some explained his name to be the one with the open hand, referring to his being generous, and others interpreted his name Didun to be the one who existed since eternity. So far, the best interpretation of his name is the one who always exists, and that's asserted through what was mentioned of him in the Pyramids texts, for being the chap or the boy, and that's the translation that's confirmed also by his name in Nubia, which is the young man. Didun was connected with the south through many titles like the Sudden Kid coming out of Nubia, or the one ahead of Nubia, the god of Kush, the one who lives in Abaton, the lord of El Bahnasa, the kind Mijai, the lord of Punt, and the dark man. Didun was connected with the west in some titles, like the one who lives in the western countries, the one who lives in Hebes. His role as a warrior god appears through some titles that's connected with wars, like the one with great power. He was also connected with the cosmic deities and with the sky titles, like the Lord of the Sky and the Great God. God Sebio Meker is a Nubian god who's always pictured in a full human form and wears above his head the double crown. On his forehead is a cobra, and he wears a short kilt with straps and fixes a bull's tail behind his back. He wears a necklace and a collar around his neck and bracelets on his arms and wrists and ankles. He wears a bent false beard and holds with his left hand the scepter was, and in his right hand the symbol of life Ankh. His name is composed of two parts, Sabo, which means God, and Mek, which means sacred. When some thought he's of a Nubian origin and others thought he's of Egyptian origin, he had just the name of Marwi in Nubia, and his form is identical to the Egyptian god Atum. Sebio Meker had many titles that point to his relationship with Nubian and Egyptian gods. He was connected with the sky deities with titles like the one who is great beauty in the body of Nut and the king in the sky. As a ruler, he was shown with titles like the one who rules the earth, the king of the two lands, the good ruler, the mighty ruler in the nether world. Some of his titles embodies his power and his military force, like the one who captures his enemies and the one who controls, with his power, all humans. In so many roles, he was known as a warrior and as a hunter and a creator, an offerer of life and a temple's protector. He appeared in many scenes and reliefs, so in some of them we see him from Marwi and its whereabouts. He was also connected with a number of Egyptian and Nubian gods, like Osiris and Atum and Abidmak, the Nubian deity. Goddess Neith is one of the most ancient and important goddesses in ancient Egypt, and monumental proofs show that she enjoyed a great level of sanctity since the pre-dynastic period and the beginning of history, and she kept that status across the various historical ages. The role and characteristics of this goddess were multiple, either in the daily life or in the afterlife. That was clear through mentioning her a lot in the pyramids texts and the coffins texts and the other religious books that showed her being involved in a number of religious mythologies. The main center of Goddess Neith cult was in the city of Saw or Sais or Sa el-Hagar of today, which was the capital of Egypt in the 26th dynasty. In addition, she was the goddess of the two nomes, the fourth and the fifth of El Delta, which were named after her, Neith Risit, or the south nome of Neith, and Neith Mahit, or the north nome of Neith. Neith was known since the beginning of the historical ages to be the goddess of war. She was mentioned as the lady of the bow, or the one in control of the arrows. Her famous symbol is the two intersecting arrows and the bow, and it appeared since the dawn of history. Neith was known as a fighting goddess of all of Egypt, and some of the characteristics of this role appear through the personal names, which point to the strength of Neith and her fighting power. Being a warrior goddess, she was represented with the figure of a lady with the head of a lioness, unlike what was known of her to be in a figure of a full woman, just like Goddess Sekhmet and Bastet, who had similar characteristics with Neith regarding their role in wars.